here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to another Sunday chat. I know you're like, where's Sunday chat? Because it's a little late, but I knew that I was going to do a walk this morning, and because of the nature of the chat, I thought it would be appropriate to film Sunday chat on this walk. And essentially I'm just going to be talking through like my time in Chicago. So this weekend marks my 10-year Chicago versary. So I've literally been here. I moved here. I can't see y'all. Can y'all? Hold on, look. Anyway, I didn't know I was going to do that, but let me fix the lighting and I'll be back. Okay, now I feel like I look less washed. I literally packed up my Nissan two-door Altima and drove it to Chicago with the things that I did not give away or sell or whatever to move here for a relationship. And you know, you all know that lore. I moved here, I moved in with my boyfriend, and it didn't work. Like, it lasted 10 months and then we broke up, and you know, I'd already quit my job, turned down a promotion, you know, all the things. Y'all have heard the story, and moved to Chicago. So like, there was no need in my mind to like go back to Nashville. I didn't have anything to go back to. And so like, once that was done, I just decided that Chicago was going to be my home and I was going to have to make that work. And it wasn't an easy task for me because I had given up, like, I'd given up my position. For those of you that don't know, I worked in healthcare technology, and I had given up my role because I couldn't be remote in the role that I was working. So I gave up my role to work like a analyst position. It was paying like $40,000 a year, but it allowed me to work remotely. So I at least had like a job, and my plan was when I got to Chicago, because I wasn't going to be responsible for like any bills or anything, I could take my time to look for work once I got to Chicago. But like I said, the relationship didn't work out. So here I was in Chicago with about $10,000 in my emergency savings and a job making $40,000 a year, which was not enough to like live in the city. Like, not even, it wasn't sustainable at all. Not even back in 2016 is when I moved out. 2015 is when I moved here. It just was not sustainable. And so like, for the first time in my adult life since I was like 18 and I left home to go to college, I had to call home and ask for help. Not just help moving my things from that situation, but also my sister had to like financially, even though I had that $10,000 in savings, like that had to float me for months until I could find me a job. I had to get furniture, like all of that. So my sister also financially helped me move into my space, and it was just something that I hadn't had to do since before I was 18, before I left home. And it was hard. It was a struggle. It took me about another 6-7 months to find a job. So you know, I was making it do what it had to do off of that little money that I was making. But I say that to say that I don't think that I arrived at the woman that I am today if I had not had to go through that. Before I came to Chicago, I was still very in the mind of being who I think other people wanted me to be, like living the life that I feel like other people, you know, thought I should live. And not necessarily people directly in relation to me, but I'm talking about like just societally, right? I'm a person that grew up in the hood, and I made it out, and I, you know, went to college, and I got a bachelor's degree, then I got a master's degree, and then I started my career, and you know, I was hitting all of these pillars of success. And you know, at that time, and still today, right, that wasn't enough as a woman. Like, in order for you to be truly seen as like a successful woman that has it all, you also needed to have that husband and those children, and you know, that would complete the trifecta of like success. And so I was still chasing after that, even though it wasn't something that I inherently wanted, more particularly kids than like a husband and relationship. But it wasn't something that I like inherent. It was like something inherent to me that I like dreamed about. I wasn't one of those little girls that like dreamed of motherhood, dreamed of, you know, my wedding and stuff like that. And so, you know, it was just something that I internalized and learned to want and need in order for it to complete my life in some way. And coming to Chicago and having gone through that, it really pushed me to think about what it is that I really, really want in life. I knew after I left that relationship that I never wanted to be in a place where I turned my back on myself in that way, right? Because I've talked about this before on this channel, where even before I moved here, I knew, like, my gut was telling me this isn't the right situation, but I was desperate, and I'm not ashamed to say that, right? I was 30, almost 31 when he and I reconnected, so it moved really fast. And we were probably back together again for like a year, and I don't know why I did that, but we probably were back together for a year, maybe even not a whole year, before I moved to Chicago. But you know, I was feeling like that biological clock, but then also I was very married to the story that he and I could tell about our relationship. This was my first love. I don't know if I was his first love, but he was my first love. We were college sweethearts. We, you know, broke up. I transferred schools. We separated for a decade, and then we come back together. We fall in love again. We get married. We have children, and it sounds amazing, right? So not only was I like moving at the speed of this like biological clock, but I was also desperate, and I was also, you know, more in love with the story than the actual situation, right? So I didn't do myself due diligence when my gut was telling me, Angela, like, you and him are fundamentally different people. Like, y'all are not the same people. You're not gonna want the same things, I'm telling you. And because my gut was telling me that, I in turn did not have those conversations, which I typically would. Like, I'm the type of person, like, I'm gonna have the conversations that need to be had, but I wasn't even having the conversations because I knew we were fundamentally different, and then that would make me have to change my mind about the situation, and I didn't want to do that because I was up against the clock. Anyway, I say all of that to say, when I left that relationship, what I did know is that I never wanted to betray myself like that. I never want to be in a situation that does not give me exactly what it is that I need, you know, to feel and exist and live life in the way that I want to. And I'm not saying that I'm looking for a perfect person. They do not exist, right? But I know how I want to feel, and I know how I want to move about this life, and I will never put myself in relationship with somebody, romantic or otherwise, where, you know, we're not in alignment on what that looks like. So after I moved out, I spent, you know, a couple years just really getting in tune with myself and what it is that I wanted, how I wanted to exist in this world, how I wanted to live, how I wanted to feel in life. You know, that included things like children, my career, my lifestyle, you know, where I wanted to live. Like, you know, do I want to buy, how I want to save money, things I want to invest, like how do I want to exist in this life? Do I want to be somebody that's like a box checker, or do I want to be somebody that's more free? Like, how do I want to exist? And developing my own standards and ethos for who I am as a person, and again, how I want to exist and move about in this life. And once I came to a definitive, you know, this is how I want to feel in my career, this is how I want my lifestyle to look, this is how, you know, I want to engage relationally. This is, you know, once I came up with all of those definitive things, I don't actually want children. Like, I don't want to be a mother. I don't want to birth children. When I was able to come up with those things definitively in my mind, I was like, you're never turning your back on the idea of that ever again, which is also why I've been single for the last 10 years, right? Because I just haven't found anyone that made me feel safe in being the person that I know that I am, that I took a really long time to sit down and get to know. And it wasn't an easy process. It took a lot of like being honest with myself, a lot of introspection, you know, it took a lot of like hard conversation with myself. It took therapy, it took all of these things. But like, once I came to a true definition of Angela and who she is as a person and who she wants to be, I made a vow and a promise to myself to never like turn back on that, right? To never allow people to pull me out of that, like, ever again. Like I said, it was a betrayal to myself, and I vowed to never do that. And I don't think that I was able to do that before. Oh, what is that? I don't think that I was able to do that before because I didn't really truly know who I was, right? Or I wasn't really truly living in my truth. I did in some aspects know who I was as it relates to like motherhood and stuff like that. I knew I didn't want to birth children. I just didn't have the courage to like say that. I had been toying around with it. I had been using words like I'm indifferent on children. Like, you know, if it happens, it happens. If it happens, if it doesn't, it doesn't. I used to say the thing like, you know, if I met the right man and he made me feel safe having children, then I would have children. But like, that is absolutely ridiculous, right? Like, I don't think that you should have children if you don't inherently want to be a mother, if you don't want to be a mother so bad that you're okay with being a single mother, because there are so many determining factors that could make you a single mother, even if you were married when you had your first child, right? There's death, there's illness, there, you know, whatever, they could leave, whatever the case may be. And so, you know, I did all of those excuses, right? But deep down, I've kind of always known that I didn't want to have children. So like I said, it was really hard to like hold other people to how I wanted to be treated, and you know, my boundaries and all those things, when I was lying to myself and other people about who I was and the things that I wanted. So once I was like very definitive in like who Angela is, like, you know, there was no turning back. And I don't think that I get to that space without moving to Chicago. And you know, circumstances were sus. The circumstances sucked like shit. But you know, God makes no mistakes, and you know, I was meant to be here. It wasn't for that man, but I was meant to be here because I have fully come into the person that I am in this city. And if you're not new here, right, if you're not a new subscriber, or you're not just like happening up on this video on your For You page, or not For You page, talking TikTok, but on your, what do you call it on YouTube? But like, if I didn't just pop up like in your feed to watch, then you know that I am supposed to be preparing to pack up and move to DC in another month or so. Like, my plan was to leave Chicago after my 10-year anniversary and try some places new and possibly come back to Chicago. Not because anything is wrong. I love the city. I love this city. I like my job. I love my community. Like, I don't, you know, I don't have a reason to leave Chicago. I'm not running away from anything. I literally was like, let's just try something new. It's been a decade. We don't have any roots. We've built a life where we could pick up and go and try new places if we want to, and that's still a part of my plan. But I don't, if you watch my last video, I mentioned that I saw a TikTok from one of the girls that used to that played in the show Harlem, and she was talking about like where you live, right? In particular, like choosing cities. And she said in the video, she was like, choose the city that wants you, right? She's like, not the city that you think you need to be in to do whatever it is that you're trying to do, but the city that wants you. And the city that wants you will tell you it wants you, right? It would make it easy for you to exist in it, right? That is the city that wants you. And as it related to like moving to DC, at first when I started planning to move, I had 3 interviews back to back to back, like, you know, with promising jobs, but they just didn't end up working out for me. One, I interviewed, I got all the way to the end and I didn't get the job. The other, I interviewed, got an offer, but couldn't negotiate like what I wanted and needed. And then the third one, I stopped in the middle of the interview because it just didn't, after speaking with I did a second interview, and I interviewed with the person that I would be working with, and it just didn't seem like a good fit. And so for me, it wasn't just about moving. Like, I'm trying to start a new life, and my work is really important to my lifestyle. Like, I don't, you know, I know y'all see me on the YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that, but this is not, I don't garner enough income for this to sustain me. So my lifestyle is dependent on the work that I do, right? Monetarily, but it's also like the freedom that I have to, like, you know, build a routine that like keeps me mentally sustained and things like that, right? I have to have a job that also has great work-life balance and all of the things that I need to feel supported in the work. And so I just didn't get that from that job. And so after those 3 interviews, it dried up. I wasn't getting no interviews, I wasn't getting no callbacks, I wasn't doing any of that. And I just started seeing like different things or whatever about like timing, and when it's time for something to happen, it'll happen. And you know, when things are meant to be, they aren't hard. And I had already had contingencies in place. We talked about that as well, right? I was going to look for a certain amount of time, and if I hadn't found a job by that time, which was July, because my lease renewal will come out in July, and you know, I would have to re-sign a lease or, you know, determine what I'm going to do. And I had already said if I didn't find a job by July, then I would just stay in Chicago another year. Like, I don't hate my life here, right? That was my contingency. But I think I stopped looking around June, like middle of June, because I was like, I started feeling myself getting stressed and like discouraged, and it was like weighing on me in a way. And I was like, why? You have a great life, you have a great job, like this is just something that you are doing out of necessity. It was just something that you wanted to try, and you can always try. Like, there will always be next year, there will always be the year after that. It may not just be time. And I'm the type of person that believes that if something is meant for me it won't necessarily come easy, right? That's not what I'm saying, that it'll be easy, but I'm saying things align for me always. Things that are meant for me have always aligned for me. And it just was not aligning. So I was like, I'm not gonna kill myself. I'll casually look. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And then when that July date hit and, you know, I haven't, then, you know, that's it. I'm re-signing a lease and it is what it is. And then I got my lease renewal for this apartment that I'm in now. And they were just asking for more than I'm willing to pay for the space. So then I was like, I'll just get a bigger space. So now, so now I'm in Chicago and I'm not upset about it at all. At first I was a little discouraged by it because I'm human, right? And I was like, damn, I made this goal and it didn't, I was like, I made this goal and it didn't work out, right? And it's human to be like, okay, did I fail at this? And then I saw that video from old girl that was like, you know, the city that wants you will let you know that it wants you, right? It won't be forced. You know, it'll align perfectly. It'll open itself up to you, right? And I was like, okay, Chicago, so, you know, you're not done with me, right? And, you know, I'm going to be okay with that. I'm happy. I got a new apartment. I signed a new lease. I love the apartment. I can't wait to move into it and, you know, start something new and fresh. And I'll be in Chicago through 2026, all of 2026. And I am going to be working in the background, right, to put myself in place for when that lease is up. I am going to probably put my things in storage and, you know, bop around for a little bit and then think about where I want to go or do or move from there. But I want to make sure that this time next year I'm in a place where I'm able to do that. So that's going to require a lot of saving. It's going to require a lot of like chilling out and sitting down and not doing a lot of shopping and all of that type of stuff, which I'm fine with. Like, you know, it is what it is. So I just wanted to give that update. It's sort of my love letter to Chicago. She made me who I am. I love her. And I wasn't trying to leave you, girl, because I have an issue with you. I just wanted to do something different. But I guess we're not done with each other. So we have another at least year and some months together. And yeah, thank you for having me and for stretching me and for growing me and for making me into the woman that I am today. I do not become this version of Angela if I don't land in this city. How I got here doesn't matter. What happened to me while I've been here is the biggest importance in the world. And so I just kind of wanted to share that with y'all on this Sunday chat because I'm feeling really fulfilled and happy. I feel really good. I just feel so good. And I just wanted to share that in case y'all are in a position where you are looking for a change or whatever the case may be, and maybe you're discouraged about it or whatever the case may be. The city that wants you will let you know. If it's too hard, right? Now, I'm not discouraging you from, like, you know, manifesting the life and the dreams that you want. That's not what I'm saying, right? There's a difference between things being unnecessarily hard and things just not aligning, right? And if things just aren't aligning for something that you really want to do, it's not a failure. It's not a no. It could be a not right now, right? And so that's what I've told myself, and that's what I'm sharing with you all. And that's it for this Sunday chat. I am going to finish my walk. I still have a mile and a half to go before I reach my 3-mile goal. And I will talk to y'all in next week's Sunday chat. Thank y'all so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see y'all in next week's video. Bye!